They abandoned him when he was just a boy, believing he would never survive without them, but fate silently prepared a twist that no one could foresee, and that this small, poor little boy would become their only lifeline. On that cold day, rejection carved the deepest wound in his heart, yet it also planted the seed of a strength far greater than anyone imagined. Years passed, and while his family carried on as if he never existed, the boy they left behind was fighting battles the world couldn't see. He grew in silence, carrying pain as his fuel, turning every tear into determination and every scar into resilience. And when life finally brought them face to face again, he would not return for revenge, but as the only lifeline they desperately needed. The nights were the hardest. Alone under the stars, with no blanket to protect him from the cold, he often wondered if his family even remembered his face. Hunger was a constant companion, gnawing at his strength and pushing him to search for scraps others had thrown away. Each day was a silent battle for survival, and yet he carried in his chest the unspoken question: why wasn't he enough for them? That pain, though unbearable, became the silent force guiding his every step. Even in the darkest moments, he refused to let bitterness consume him. When strangers mocked his torn clothes and empty hands, he lowered his head but never let the fire in his eyes die out. He dreamed of a different life, one where he would no longer beg for acceptance or fight for a single piece of bread. The rejection he endured cut deeper than hunger, but it shaped a resilience no one could take away. What they saw as weakness was quietly transforming into unshakable strength. There were days when hope seemed almost impossible. Passing families on the street laughing together, he felt the sharp sting of the love he had lost. But instead of breaking, he found inspiration in what was missing. He promised himself that if he ever had the chance, he would build a life where no child would feel as invisible as he once did. That silent vow became his shield, protecting him against despair and fueling the dream that tomorrow could be different. And so step by step he endured. With every rejection and every lonely night, the boy they left behind was learning lessons no classroom could teach. Pain became his teacher. Silence became his companion, and endurance became his greatest ally. The world expected him to fade away, forgotten and powerless. But destiny was writing another ending, one that would soon shock everyone who had turned their backs on him. One day, after countless nights of despair, he met a stranger who didn't look at him with pity but with genuine kindness. A warm meal was placed in his hands, and for the first time in years, he felt seen. That moment was small in the eyes of many, but to him it was the spark that reminded him the world wasn't entirely cruel. From that day, he realized that a single act of compassion could change everything. The boy decided he would not waste the opportunity that fate had given him. With determination burning inside, he worked any job he could find, from sweeping streets to carrying heavy loads no one else wanted to touch. His hands grew calloused, his back ached, but his spirit refused to break. Every coin he earned became a symbol of progress, proof that he was slowly taking control of his destiny. Even when exhaustion pressed him down, he carried within him a vision of a better tomorrow. At night, he would look at the stars and whisper promises to himself that his life would mean something, that he would rise above the pain of rejection. What others saw as a forgotten boy, he saw as the beginning of a man being forged by fire. With each passing day, his silent vow grew stronger. His resilience caught the attention of those who once overlooked him. A shop owner, impressed by his discipline and honesty, offered him a chance to learn skills beyond physical labor. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving, he was growing. Knowledge became his new weapon and discipline his armor. He realized that while he couldn't change the past, he could shape a future where he would never again be powerless. The turning point had come. He was no longer the boy abandoned in silence, but a young man on the rise. Every setback became a stepping stone, every challenge a hidden opportunity. Destiny was no longer something that happened to him. It was something he was building with his own hands. And though he didn't know it yet, the very family who left him behind would one day depend on the strength born from his suffering. The years that followed became a journey of relentless progress. What began with small jobs turned into bigger opportunities as people started to recognize not just his hard work, but the integrity that guided every step he took. Slowly he climbed from poverty into stability, from anonymity into respect. The boy once abandoned was now a man whose name carried weight and honor. With his growing skills and unshakable discipline, he built something greater than anyone could have imagined. A business that provided not only for himself, but for dozens of others who needed the same chance he once prayed for. His success wasn't fueled by greed, it was driven by the memory of his darkest nights, ensuring no one else would feel the same hunger he endured. Yet even as wealth and recognition grew, he remained humble. He remembered the cold streets, the piercing hunger, the emptiness of rejection. Those memories, instead of chaining him to the past, became the compass that guided his actions. He chose generosity over pride and compassion over bitterness. His rise was not just measured in fortune, but in the lives he uplifted along the way. People who once overlooked him now sought his advice, respect, and partnership. They marveled at how someone with nothing could create so much, and whispers of his story began to spread like wildfire. To many, he became a symbol of hope, proof that no circumstance was permanent and no wound too deep to heal. The boy forgotten by his own family was now remembered by an entire community. And as destiny would have it, the same family that abandoned him would soon find themselves at the edge of despair. Struggling, broken, and out of options, they would come face to face with the man they once threw away. But this time, the balance of power was different. He held in his hands not just success, but the choice of what to do with the pain of the past. The day came when his past and present collided. His family, once filled with certainty that he would never matter, now stood trembling at the doorstep of ruin. Illness, poverty, and desperation had stripped them of the pride they once carried when they cast him aside. And fate, in its mysterious way, placed their survival in the hands of the very boy they had abandoned. When they saw him again, disbelief painted their faces. No longer the fragile child they left behind, he stood tall, confident, and unshaken. Their voices faltered as they tried to explain, searching for excuses, but no words could erase the years of silence and rejection. For a moment, fear clouded their hearts, certain that the man before them would turn his back just as they once had. But he did not come seeking revenge. Instead, he listened quietly, his gaze heavy with memories yet softened by compassion. Deep inside, he knew the pain of abandonment had forged his strength, but it had never poisoned his heart. He chose not to mirror the cruelty they showed him, but to rise above it with dignity. With steady hands, he offered them help, the very lifeline they so desperately needed. Food, shelter, and support flowed from the man they once deemed worthless. Their tears fell heavier than any storm, not from hunger this time, but from the overwhelming weight of guilt and redemption. The boy they abandoned had become the hope they could not live without. In that moment, the story came full circle. What began with rejection ended with forgiveness. What started with pain concluded with compassion. He proved that greatness is not built on vengeance, but on the courage to heal wounds by lifting others up. And as his family clung to the chance he gave them, one truth became clear. Sometimes the strongest souls are forged in silence, and the greatest victories are those that lift even those who once let us fall. Life teaches us that pain can either break us or shape us into something greater. And he chose to transform every wound into strength. His story reminds us that true greatness is not found in revenge, but in the courage to forgive and in the power to lift others even when they once let us fall. If he, abandoned by his own family, could rise and still choose compassion, then nothing is impossible for those who refuse to give up. Let his journey be the spark that ignites your own, showing that your darkest moments can lead to your brightest victories. And if you want to see another unforgettable story of resilience, watch the video on the left about the boy abandoned at the train station who became a successful entrepreneur and saved the very parents who left him behind.